better way to talk about something I love, rather than also be something that I use pretty much every day in group. Sometimes it goes really good, sometimes it doesn't, but it is a very good framework, so that's what I chose this particular topic. This is my disclaimer. I am in no means or shape, form, or fashion certified in DBT, but I do like using the worksheets and all that in group. I do think once all this classwork is done, that it would be something I would pursue, becoming certified in DBT, but for now I'm kind of content with just what we do upstairs. I'm kind of going to do a brief description of what DBT is, talk about the different skills of DBT, but I also want to focus on how I use it in groups. So the last few slides are just really focused on the worksheets that I really give to the patients, that we really focus on, and how I try to make it as part of their treatment while they're here. And y'all feel free to talk back to me. Doesn't just have to be me talking.
We will when we figure out what you're talking about. Because I have no idea. You better not say it.
We got to know there's people here, you know.
So hopefully by the end of this lecture, there are a couple of things that I hope that you'll take away. I didn't want to really give anybody a lot of paperwork to take that with you, but if you are interested in the presentation, I will be more than happy to email you my PowerPoint or print you off some information. That is not a problem. But first, I'm going to talk about the history of DBT, what it is, just kind of give you some characteristics, some assumptions, what goes along with it, characteristics, treatment, targeted, and the skills, which are their 4 skills, and I always miss one of them, but it's mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotional regulation, and distress tolerance. Oh, I got it. Yeah. All right, if you know anything about DBT, you know that its founder is Martha Woodhand. If you have not seen her talk about DBT itself, I would greatly recommend that you check out YouTube. She has several videos that you can look at and watch her talk about how to use the skills, why it's appropriate with certain people. And one thing I really like about her, because I've watched her a few times, is that you can tell she's really passionate about what she does and why she does it, and that kind of carries very well in her videos. So I would highly recommend that. It's pretty much made up of cognitive behavioral skills with some Zen Buddhism in there too. There's a lot of focus on balance and mindfulness and awareness. That's where the Zen Buddhism comes in. But there's also the focus on how you interact with people, your thought process. Why is that kind of important as far as how is it affecting your treatment? Originally, it was founded just for, I think when she first started, for suicidal women who also carried the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. That's where it started. But it was also found that it was effective with a lot of other disorders too. Mainly with disorders where the disorder, there was some type of emotional dysregulation. And that included things like substance abuse, eating disorders, PTSD. So yes, it's great with borderline personality disorders, but it also has a lot of other good diagnoses that it works with too. The other thing that changed, 1977, they kind of revamped DBT to not only be effective for adults, but also for adolescents. Basically, all they did was shorten the number of skills there were for the adolescent version, and they just simplified some of the language. Honestly, the adolescent version is what I use a lot upstairs just because it's easier for a lot of the patients to kind of comprehend what it is I'm talking about. And we do have a lot of patients upstairs who may not have an high school, may not have even completed high school, so kind of have to simplify it for them too. So the only other differences between the adult version and the adolescent version are the family members, which I guess would be included too in the adult treatment, but it's a lot more focused on that with the adolescents. And just as I said, the number of skills was reduced and the language was changed a little bit. Plus it has some nice graphics in there. If you're a visual person like me, you appreciate the graphics. Alright, so why did DBT come to be? Well, if you've ever known a patient who was borderline personality disorder or a personality disorder at all, you know, they can kind of be difficult to be around. Okay, it's a difficult thing to kind of treat. Before this particular framework was even put into effect, many of the patients with borderline personality disorders or personality disorders would quit treatment 70% of the time. That's a pretty big number. You get them into treatment, they start it off, and then 70% of your patients will just quit and give up. So 2 interventions that come to mind when talking about personality disorders in particular are cognitive therapy and DBT. There's a lot of good things that research has shown that you find with DBT, and that is that you have when patients actually put in the effort into working through the therapy process, you see a decrease in suicidal behavior that includes self-injurious behavior. They're sticking to treatment more. There's a lot less hospitalizations. We have a lot of frequent flyers. I think sometimes that's just a part of it, but if you can find something that they can stick to so they don't have to come to the hospital as often, this was one of those. There also was a decrease in treatment dropouts, so they were trying to stay with it. It was offering a lot of things that they can kind of connect with, so they wanted to participate in the therapy, which makes a big difference. A lot of times we get patients who they don't want to be here, they want to go home, they don't really care what you're talking about in group. But this kind of gives you a way to teach them skills where they're really invested in, or feel like they're invested in making themselves better. It's not a magic wand, but it's close to it. Let's see. Big part of DBT, a lot of times when I tell patients I talk about DBT in group, they're like, well, what does that stand for? It stands for dialectical behavioral therapy. Well, what is a dialect? Well, dialect is just, this is one definition, it just refers to a synthesis of opposites, but it can be any two or more things that are in balance, that are in conflict, contrary or mismatched, and yet they are both real and true. A couple of good examples are our needs and wants. How many times do we want something, but we don't necessarily need it? Both of them are pretty true, but they conflict with each other. Feelings and thoughts. This is the big one for patients in particular. They feel one way, but their thoughts are telling them something else. Problems and solutions. Sometimes they don't always go hand in hand. So that's what it's meant by dialects. It's just 2 opposing ideas that both are true. Questions? Am I moving too fast?
No.
All right. So you don't have to read the entire thing. Just to give you a gist of what it says, people, especially with borderline personality disorder, are those patients that are more inclined to be easily stimulated. Okay, so for instance, just using anger as an example, they anger easily. They stay angry for a long time, and it takes them a long time to get back to baseline, more than your typical person. That's what DBT is taking into consideration. A lot of times they're struggling with their impulses because they get so easily riled up about the littlest things, and it takes them a long time to come back down from it. So DBT takes that into consideration when talking about treatment. It's focused on arousal levels and trying to change that pattern of thinking and acting. Because a lot of times there's just action, there's no thinking. Because I have a lot of patients upstairs will say, those that act out, they'll say, well, I didn't even think about it. I just acted out of what I was feeling right then and there. And so we'll talk back in group process, well, what could you have done differently? What will you do next time? What are some of the steps you can take? All right. This is probably one of my favorite things that I like about DBT is some of the assumptions, and this is not all of them, but I just picked out some of my favorites. Look at me being selfish. But DBT assumes that people are doing the best that they can. Okay, that's probably not true of every patient up there, because some know how to manipulate the system. That's not going to change. But every once in a while, you do have people up there who are truly doing the best they can with what they have. Okay. They are wanting to improve. A lot of them will tell you, well, I want to get better. I've been in and out of hospitals. I've been trying to do this. So you hear that there is a desire